Bridget is at a fancy party thrown by her neighbors, Mindy and Bryce. Her husband, Don, used to work for the same company, but he lost his job. At the party, Bridget finds out Don is secretly selling their house, so she rushes back and has a big argument with him about it. Don admits they're drowning in debt and he hasn't found a new job. Bridget decides to take action herself. But it's not easy. She has no modern job experience, a literature degree, and limited computer skills. She finally gets a job as a janitor at the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City. Her boss, Glover, warns her, everyone is watched. She also meets Nina, who works the shredder, and Jackie, who pushes cash carts between rooms. Bridget is stunned at how much worn-out money is destroyed daily. After her workday is done, she returns home and refuses to talk to Dawn. The kitchen tap breaks, and she has no other choice but to go shopping. Bridget sees all the products on display, especially the padlocks, and slowly begins to form a plan to steal money from the bank. The next day, she notices there are only 3 keys that can open it. One, it's in the sorting room, another one is held by an agent in the inspection room, and the last one is in the shredding room, and who might help her pull this off? She also tests various employees' morals, keep a bill found on the ground, but everyone so far is too nice and not trustworthy. After watching Jackie dance around with her headphones on, Bridget knows, this girl is perfect for the job. Bridget approaches Nina outside and makes her first pitch. What if we stole some of the money before it's shredded? Nina thinks she's joking, or worse, a test from the bank, but Bridget is serious. She keeps pushing, even leaving flyers in Nina's locker showing schools her kids could attend with more money. Eventually, Nina agrees, but only if one more person joins. They recruit Jackie, who says yes immediately. She even lets them believe she's on drugs, just to get in on the plan, but she's actually diabetic. The next morning, Bridget hides a padlock behind her belt to swap with the banks. During lunch, she makes a signal, touching her eyebrow, to tell the others it's time. Jackie gets the message but backs out. She has a bad feeling. Moments later, Glover calls a random inspection. Jackie's instincts were right. The next day, the 3 of them make the gesture and silently agree to get the plan, starting with Bridget in the inspection room. She pretends to clean the cash boxes and finds one that's been opening for inspection, putting her body between it and the camera to hide the fact she's changing the bank lock for the one she bought. Then she takes the hallway, where she comes across Jackie to tell her the number of the chosen box, and she also writes it on a piece of paper that she leaves with the real padlock on the bathroom's trash can for Nina to find. Next is Jackie's turn, who is in charge of moving cash carts around the building. She positions herself between the cart and the camera and opens the padlock to take out some money and hide it in the trash can behind her while pretending to be dancing. Then she takes the cart to the shredding room, where Nina puts back the real padlock while Bridget does her usual trash can rounds and recovers the money, hiding it among her cleaning products. The 3 women later meet in the bathroom and divide the money, hiding it under their clothes. At the end of the day, Bridget and Nina pass the control with no issues, but they're worried about Jackie, who has some bills peeking out of her pants. Nina begins to laying the cue by flirting with Barry, but things suddenly get tense when Glover shows up looking rather angry. Luckily, he just wants to scold Bridget for dropping her entrance card, and his presence makes Jackie double-check herself, finally hiding the bills in her pants. The 3 women then go to Bridget's house to count the money and divide it equally. They celebrate at Bridget's house, throwing money in the air like confetti. But Don walks in and sees it all. He's shocked. Bridget says she's doing it again until the debt is gone. Nina goes to a fancy school to enroll her kids there. Bridget and Don go to their bank to deposit some money, always keeping it under $9,000 so it isn't reported to the IRS. Don is still a bit frustrated by this whole crime business, but he's also impressed by Bridget's intelligence, so they end up making out in the car. They keep stealing, again and again. Bridget gets her house back. Nina enrolls her kids in a better school. Glover suspects nothing, but Bridget doesn't want to stop. Even after the bills are paid, she convinces the others to keep going. Nina agrees, but makes one rule: no big spending. Stay under the radar. Suddenly, Bridget breaks her promise pretty quickly, though, and buys an incredibly expensive ring for herself. But she can't fool Nina, who corners her in the bathroom at work and takes off Bridget's glove, finding the ring on her finger. As punishment for not keeping her word, Nina takes the ring and flushes it down the toilet before reminding Bridget of the rules. Some days later, in the very same bathroom, Nina is pacing the floor while playing with the lock key in her hand, worried about her friend being late. When Bridget finally arrives, she throws the lock bag at her in a hurry, and as she catches it, Nina accidentally drops the key in the sink drain. Bridget can't go back to the first floor to ask Jackie for the other key because breaking her daily route would be suspicious. So she stays in the bathroom and calls her husband while Nina goes back to her workstation before they notice she's gone. Don goes to see Bob at his workplace to make him call Jackie and warn her of the problem. Bob's boss sees him using his phone instead of working, and when Bob refuses to go back to his job, he gets fired. It takes Don a long time to get back to Bridget to tell her Jackie will find a way to pass the key, so Glover finds it suspicious that she is spending so much time in the bathroom and goes to confront her. Bridget manages to get out of trouble by pretending to be incredibly upset about the way the bank employees make a mess out of the bathroom, even yelling in such a hysterical way that scares Glover off. At the elevator doors, Jackie hides the key in her chewed bubblegum. When the elevator opens, however, two men are inside, so she pretends to be offended by them and throws the bubblegum at their heads in fury. The men dodge it, and the gum with the key is stuck on the elevator wall, so it will be taken to Bridget's floor where she retrieves it. Meanwhile, Nina can't open the cart padlock because she doesn't have the right key. Barry tries to help her because sometimes the lock gets stuck and gets surprised when he can't open it either. But luckily for them, Bridget arrives right then. She asks Barry to open the door, and while he's distracted, she throws the key at Nina, who proceeds to finally open the lock. She smiles at Barry, letting him know she's finally cracked the problem. The women meet at the bar to talk. They debate bribing Barry. Nina refuses to seduce him, but she agrees to talk to him. She visits his apartment and sees he's taking care of his sick mother. She tells him, "This money could give you everything you want." Barry says no, but the next day, Bridget corners him and convinces him to join. He says Nina is worth more than just a bribe. Now he's on the team. Time passes. They all start spending the money. Bridget and Don renovate their home. Nina moves to the suburbs. Jackie and Bob buy a new RV. Don misses working, so he helps them create fake stories for their income. Everything seems perfect until Bridget throws a party and sees a man she doesn't recognize. The next day, that man shows up at the bank. His name is Mandelbrot. He's a federal bank examiner. The man confronts Glover on the matter of some of his employees potentially having stolen money from the bank. Glover is extremely prideful about the bank's security, though, and refuses to admit anyone could have stolen from him. So he kicks Mandelbrot out until he brings him actual proof. All three of their homes are under surveillance now, so the three couples get together to discuss how to proceed. Bridget thinks they haven't arrested them yet because they have no proof. Bob then confesses that he may have not been very careful because he took the cover story of day trading seriously and actually started doing it. Since he invested more than $10,000, the transaction was reported to the IRS, explaining why they're suddenly being investigated. Bridget insists the police have no proof, but Nina reminds her the money hidden in their houses counts as proof, so they all agree to destroy it when they get home regardless of Bridget's protests. Before leaving, Barry tells Nina that he knows how cops work, and they only need one guy to speak to get everyone, so if they're caught, she should make a deal quickly to save her kids, and nobody will blame her for it. Jackie and Bob make their old motorhome explode with the money inside and try to escape in the new one, but they're caught before they can even leave the area. Nina is caught lighting the bills on fire, Barry is found putting the money in his car, and Dawn is caught shredding the bills down the toilet. But Bridget manages to escape in her car, unaware Mandelbrot is following her. She stays the night in a hotel under a fake name after bribing the receptionist so she wouldn't ask for a credit card, and the next morning, while she has breakfast at the hotel's restaurant, she's approached by Mandelbrot. He asks her some questions to try to satisfy his curiosity, but Bridget reminds him he can't arrest her because he isn't a cop and leaves. Meanwhile, at the station, Nina is offered a deal to save her kids. Jackie has already confessed, but only so Nina could go free, paid taxes. In the end, they reach a deal. They're allowed to walk free with no fines or penalties as long as they give all the money back. And, of course, they accept. After leaving the station, all of them share a hug before each couple goes on their own way. 8 months later, they meet at Junior's bar. Everyone is working regular jobs again. Then, Bridget reveals her secret. She hid extra money in the bar's basement. They finally have the life they dreamed of.